let's start a movement together. How does one start a movement on? I think TikTok would be great for starting a movement. What if you want to start a movement around your brand? How would you do that? All right, I'm going to tell you how you would do that. Hey, if you want to start a movement around your brand, this is how I think you could do it. It would take, I'm not going to say it would be easy. This is not a growth hack. And it is a Boolean outcome. That means it is all or nothing. It very well could fail. It very well could not work out. But this is what you do. You're going to need to create 3 TikTok channels. So we're creating a movement around a brand, around your brand. Your brand. You got to create 3 TikTok channels. And it's for your brand. The first one is for your brand. And in the first one, you try to make your brand go viral in any way that you can think of. That's it. You try to make your brand go viral in any way that you can think of. We're creating a movement here. We're creating a movement. So that means getting good at actually making viral content on TikTok. And that could take months. You have to make a video every day. But the payoff of creating a movement around your brand is very huge. Very, 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 very huge. So what you do is you make your brand go viral. I've seen TikTok channels that's just about a certain brand, and it's people making videos about their brand in all these different ways until they hit gold and they go viral. And then they keep doing it on that one channel. But here's where our paths diverge. Instead of making content just on that one channel after going viral, this is theory, but bear with me. Stay with me for this. I want you to tell me if you think this would work. I think this is how we can create a movement around your brand together. Whereas most people, they make their brand go viral on one channel and then they keep making videos on that channel to go viral again on the same channel. Now on TikTok, you are going to mimic this video. You might do a stitch. So this is TikTok channel number 2. Now we do the second channel. You might have to warm it up so it looks like it's not you. You want it to look like it's a different person. So this is not easy. I think it could be done rather cheap and the payoff would be so worth it. It's like, imagine creating the Harlem Shake or the Ice Bucket Challenge or the Grimace Shake Challenge around your own brand. Like the Grimace Shake Challenge was so huge, brought so much more business to McDonald's. That was a movement. That was a movement around a brand, and it came from people copying each other. So once you have that first viral video, now you need the second account that looks like it's not associated with the first account to copy that video and go viral. Whatever video you hit big with, now it needs to be copied. Now it needs to be copied by another one. And then that goes viral. Account number 2. And now we're getting close. I don't know what spin on the first viral video it's going to be. It needs to be a spin on the first viral video, but it needs to incorporate the first viral video. And so now we've had 2 viral videos on 2 different channels. And then we do it one more time on a third channel that looks like it's not associated with the other 2 channels. And I think that's enough. That's enough for people to be like, oh, this is a movement. And then people start doing their own takes on it. And they probably do a much better job. And big accounts get in on it and it gets big and it grows. There's this video on YouTube. One of my favorite videos. I think it's just called How to Start a Movement. Let's do it. Let me do a YouTube search. Let me do a YouTube search right now. How to start a movement. One of my favorite videos, though I can't remember the name because it's such a old video. How to start a movement. Is this the one? It is. All right. It's from 13 years ago. And it's oh my God, such a great video. Please watch that video. If you are listening to this, please watch the How to Start a Movement video. And what it is, it's a guy it's a concert. People are sitting down. No one's dancing. But there's one lone crazy person who's dancing alone, doesn't care. One crazy person who's dancing alone. And this person's having a lot of fun. And then somebody else joins this person. It's a guy, he has his shirt off, and he's dancing alone. And he's dancing wild, like crazy wild. And then another person comes and dances with him. And now it's these two people doing this crazy dancing alone. And they look like they're having so much fun. And then one or two more people join them. And everyone sees this group of people dancing and having fun. And everyone else is sitting down. These people who are looking at them, they're sitting down. And you know what they do? They want to be part of the party. And they go and they join the group. And the group grows. And eventually the entire field is doing the wild dancing. And somehow, 13 years ago, this was all caught. This is all caught on video. I'm going to watch this video myself after this talk. This video has me so hyped. Maybe I'll even make a TikTok on this video. Let me tell you my idea for, I did a warm-up session before recording. This is episode 58 of The Edward Show. So I did a warm-up session. I had no idea what I was going to talk about on this episode. And I said, I'm just gonna free flow during the warm-up session, see what I come up with, and start it at a certain point. And now I'm feeling pretty good. Now I'm pretty warmed up. Pretty warmed up talking about this movement. And the other idea that I had was I didn't know what I was going to make because I put up a TikTok video every day. And it's crazy. I've been doing that since November 1st. In the last 5 weeks, I think I said this yesterday. In the last 5 weeks, I've grown 75% on TikTok. And I started on November 1st. And there was months and months of stagnation and plateauing. And now I've grown. You can't see the growth in front of you, but you just need to trust in the process. And that's what I do. On the days where it's hard, I still make a video because I trust in the process to get me to where I need to be. And I know that if I do a video every day, maybe like for several weeks in a row, my videos will be awful. And I'll get tired of the videos being awful. And I'll take feedback and I'll iterate. You got to trust in yourself to iterate. And because everyone can get there. I won't say everyone, because you do see people who make the same bad content for years straight. But that's very rare that someone will put out a video every day for years in a row and they won't improve. In fact, I don't really know anybody who does that. Maybe they do a few weeks and then what happens is, whereas I didn't give up, I changed. Most people, they just give up. They just give up at that point. And that's the point. The giving up point is the point where if you really think hard and sit down, because you've learned all of like what not to do, that's the point where you have the opportunity to have this like crazy upwards trajectory, which is what I'm on TikTok right now. It's really exciting for me. And so before recording this podcast, I said, well, I need to make a video today. I don't know what it's going to be about. I need to do a podcast today. I don't know what it's going to be about. I'm going to warm up for this podcast, get into the zone, and then use that zone to come up with an idea for the TikTok. And that's what I did, because now I know I'm going to talk about how to create a movement. One of my favorite videos. And that's going to be the subject of today's TikTok. I'm thinking about like what my TikTok brand is. And like the process. Also, I want to go back a little bit. Trust in the process. Trust in the process, because I know that if I warm myself up while speaking and making a good podcast, I can also come up with a good video idea. That's what happens when your brain opens up. A good way to do that is to just speak out loud. This is actually something that I used to do every day as a habit years and years and years ago, before I had my own video channel, like my own TikTok, before I had a podcast, before I was going on podcasts. I just wanted to become more improvisational. I wanted to become more comfortable doing public speaking. And I did a bunch of different exercises every day. One of those was I would just stand in my room or whatever apartment I was in Europe. And I literally did this every day, talked for 20 minutes, just spoke for 20 minutes, saw what would come out of my mouth, the ideas that I came up with. God, what an amazing exercise. I want to do that more often. I might start doing that again before each show. It's so powerful. It's like journaling. You'd be so surprised what happens if you just do one brain opening exercise and you do that for like 20 minutes. You will be shocked what could happen if you do that. I think people should warm their brains up every day. It's such a powerful exercise. It really doesn't take a lot of time. I've talked about journaling. I think just doing stream of consciousness speaking as well is amazing. Now, not everybody has the luxury to be alone, and so they might seem a bit crazy. But if you do have the luxury of having 20 minutes to yourself and people aren't going to overhear you and you feel comfortable just speaking, I would encourage you to do it. Sometimes I would even go on walks and I would put in headphones. This is what crazy people do, and I'm a crazy person. I would put in headphones and walk around speaking to nobody, but because I had in headphones, people would think that I was on the phone, and then I would do that if someone was going to overhear me, but I needed to warm my voice up, warm my mind up to speaking. I would do that, and that was also effective, but not as effective as just like pacing around one spot and talking. It's so good. It's so good. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm pacing around, holding my lavalier microphone to my mouth. And I'm just like, you really can be so creative if you just give yourself the opportunity to be creative. That's what yesterday's episode was about. And I did that while I was walking around. How to start a movement. We're starting movement. We're starting this movement on TikTok. That's what you would do. That's what you would do. Now, it's Boolean though. It's Boolean because you could go for months and it could be really hard. And then I think if someone just tried to do that and they gave themselves like a year, they could do it. But people, I totally understand. People don't want to give themselves a year to figure this stuff out. I'm just saying, if we were to create a movement on TikTok, if you had like a budget, if you had like a marketing budget and you could hire creators to just try to figure this out, especially if they were creators in like low GD, if you could outsource creators, because you totally can. There are brilliant creators around the world, and they're not all in New York City, San Francisco, Austin, Miami. They're not all in expensive cities. There's brilliant creators all over the world who speak English. And if you're like, hey, listen, and so you could pay these people if you have a startup, they're less expensive, and you could be like, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a movement. And you totally could do that. I think you totally could do that, and it wouldn't be that expensive. It could just be something that you're doing on the side. It's such an interesting idea. How much would it cost to pay a creator who speaks English in Poland or in Serbia or in Mexico or in Brazil? You know, just an idea. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do on today's episode. I wanted to ideate. I had another idea. I had another idea. I'm going to share this idea before I go. This idea is kind of, how do I say this? This idea is kind of bad. As in, it's a bit social climby, and it's a bit like, oh, you're using somebody else. But I realized something yesterday. I want to share what I realized. You can take this information in whatever way that you want. You can use this information in whatever way that you want. You don't have to use it, or maybe you do. Maybe you'll want to use it. Look, if you're trying to fundraise and you don't have existing warm angel connections or venture capital connections, and you're trying to fundraise, that can be hard. What you have to do is you have to do two things. There are two ways to do it. Well, three ways. You can create a project that has a real momentum and traction, and then the investors reach out to you. I love that way. Even if the investors don't reach out to you, you have traction. You can do a lot of stuff with that. And then eventually they will reach out to you. Once you have customers, investors always reach out. So that's way number one. But that one can take time. It can take know-how. It can be very hard. I actually think what I'm going to suggest is really easy for fundraising. People don't think about it. Way number two is you go around trying to network to meet investors and angels, and then people who will introduce you to investors and angels without really expecting anything in return. That is also very difficult. I know people who are trying to do that. I don't recommend it to them, and I don't recommend it to anybody listening. I think that is a big waste of time. You're better off using your time to get traction for your startup. Now, here is the thing that I realized. I have a friend who partnered with a pretty influential person that he knows here in New York. And that person became a co-founder of a startup that they had an idea for. And with no product, just because this person had authority, they raised tens of millions of dollars. And the guy who has authority doesn't do any work. And his job was to just get investors. And then he gets salary, and and he's like a face of the company. And I had something similar happen to me yesterday, and this is how I realized it. I have like many friends in finance, and yesterday a private equity friend reached out, and he's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about helping my startup friends fundraise, and it would be good for him. He'd get several benefits from that, and he wants to do it for like several startups." And then I had this idea, and I'm like, bro, what if we just look? I have delivery partners. I have like many dev shops because developers really like me. I'm so lucky. I think that's because I'm a very technical person. I think if you're a marketing person, but you want to have like a lot of developer friends, become a technical person. That's why I think like become technical with your marketing. I'm very obsessive when I do marketing. Anyway, back to this lesson. Man, I was going into this episode cold. I'm interrupting myself. I'm so excited. I was going into this episode cold, did not know what I was going to be talking about. And I'm feeling pretty good. I feel pretty good about what I'm saying. So the way number 3, which nobody thinks of, which I thought of yesterday, my friend says, he wants to help startups fundraise. And I'm like, well, what if we did a startup together and all these investors, so you line up those meetings and then I pitch the investors, you help close them. And then once we close the round, you become COO and there will be work for you to do, but like, it's not going to be a huge amount. And you'll just take care of all the like finance stuff with the company. And basically what he's doing is he's raising a good job where he works with his friends. And it's like raising a great job, basically. And I think there's a lot of people who would want to do this because there's a lot of finance people who wish they had their own thing, who wish they were making money because they had their own thing. And this is what that opportunity offers them. So what do you actually do here? Let's say you want to do this. Let's say that you are a startup founder. Maybe you've started to create go-to-market, as in like a brand. You've started to create a brand. Maybe you have written some lines of code for whatever startup that you have, but it's not a lot. You have no traction. And the work that you have put in so far, it's not like a ton. There's a lot of people who are in this. They want money. They need money. They need money to build this thing. And the only way that they're going to build it is if they have capital, if they've raised. What do you do in this situation? The 2 options, traction or going around and finding investors. No. Instead, what you do go around, but you try to find basically people who've worked in finance for a while and who look like they know people. And then all that you do, and this is why I said it's kind of a bad idea, because it's a bit like I'm using you. But this is what you become their friend. You find 1 or 2 people, you can hedge your bets and find some people who work in finance and become their friends over the course of like a month or 2. Just hang out with them and then pitch them. Say, hey, what if we did a startup together? You'll be a founding member. You'll get founders equity, or they don't even have to get founders equity. The person who suggested this to me said he didn't want founders equity, but I'm like, well, if you could have founders equity and actually take care of a lot of stuff that I don't want to take care of, and that's cool too. Because a lot, like if you're a creative person, or if you're a programmer, you don't want to have to worry about operations. And these people are pretty good at operations in terms of like finance and setting up the company and all that stuff. I've done that. I don't want to do it. It's not fun for me, but it's fun for them. This friend, he was telling me, and this guy was an actual friend, but it led to this realization because another friend of mine had done this. But I think you can manufacture it by just becoming friends with people who know a lot of finance people. But he would have his place. I was telling him, he's like, we were having lunch one time, and he was telling me about saving points with credit cards, or getting points with credit cards and then using those points and saving money. And I just found it so boring. And he was so into it. And I'm like, that's great. Like, we have totally different interests, and your interests are more aligned with operations for the company. So there would be like really useful stuff for you to do that I wouldn't want to worry about. And he could take care of it really easily. So, hey, look, if you're struggling to fundraise, I know so many people who are. I think this is a pretty cool solution. It lets you, like, if you are struggling to fundraise, it's probably because you are not one of these people who wants to do the operational stuff as well. So what you find is a co-founder who does the stuff that you don't want to do, who also gets you investors. That's pretty sweet. And I think becoming friends with people is really easy. Really, really easy. You just have to ask people about themselves. Sit with them and then like meet with them like once every week or two. Just have lunch. And that's it. And then suggest to them that you do a raise. And because they've been working in finance, they're like, oh yeah, I know people. And you'd feel it out when you meet with them. You're asking them questions. So you'd feel it out to see if they really know people. So you would know you're not gonna like spend weeks or months becoming this person's friend, because you're gonna be asking them questions while you hang out. So you'll know. And then and you'll also know if they're interested. Oh, it's such a good idea. Oh my gosh. It's such a great solution to fundraising. I think it feels a bit slimy, because like you're using this person to get money to raise you're using this person to get investors for your company, but they'll benefit too. They'll have a job that they like, working with somebody that they like, and they'll have more upside than they probably would. So that was the idea. I think it's a kind of cool idea. Maybe they would have an idea and they would need help in terms of marketing or actually actually building a product, and you could come in on there too. All right. This is episode 58 of the Edward Show. I'm going to make this TikTok now. This went on for a long time. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to make a podcast for like 5 minutes, because I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And now I feel like I think all of this was pretty good. So thank you so much for listening. Episode 58 of The Edward Show. This is my daily podcast. If you like this, I've actually been taking all the archives of my newsletter and putting them on my website at edwardsturm.com. It's edwardsturm.com/articles. So if you like this, you can check out my newsletter archive there, or sign up to my newsletter at edwardsturm.com/newsletter. All right, episode 58. Thank you so much. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.